This is a Global News special presentation.
I'm just chomping at the bit to get going, and what I need, though, is a cooperative council.
The last 4 years under Kennedy Stewart have been marked by missed opportunities, division, and combativeness.
Vote with your heart, and don't be afraid to try someone new.
I'm sincerely hoping we're going to have a change.
There is no other council anywhere in Canada, or I would say North America, that has achieved what we have in the last 4 years.
This mayor is out of control. He is spending out of control, and that is irresponsible.
It was our responsibility. It's every individual's right to vote, and it's important.
We have a lot of opportunities ahead of us, but we really need somebody in the chair who has some experience.
We haven't been governing at City Hall. What we've been doing is politicking.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being with us for our special coverage of BC's municipal elections. Candidates have been hard at work in 162 municipalities across the province, trying to convince you they are the best people to represent you in your city halls and your school board offices.
And let's see if they managed to do just that. Now you have had your say. The polls are closed with the exception of one, and we'll tell you about that in a moment. The votes are being counted, and you can count on us to bring you all the results and analysis from around BC, wherever you're watching and listening from tonight. This is Decision 2022. We've got a few races that are already called, and they have been for weeks because these mayors won by acclamation. So let's take a look at some of those mayors in Metro Vancouver. Of course, in Port Coquitlam, Brad West serving another term as mayor in Poco.
Let's check out what's going on in Burnaby too. Mike Hurley, the punk rock mayor, the musician, wildly popular in Burnaby as well, will be returning to the mayor's chair.
And in Pitt Meadows, a rookie's coming in. Nicole McDonald was not an incumbent, just a brand new candidate, but no one wanted to go up against her. She's now the new mayor.
That's right. Out of New West, Richard Zussman joins us now with more. Richard.
Yeah, so let's take a look right now here at the Queen City. Patrick Johnstone is the next mayor of New Westminster, replacing Jonathan Cote, who decided not to run again this time. So he has won this thing. Ken Armstrong in second here. He's up nearly 900 votes. And so Patrick Johnstone will be the next mayor of New Westminster. This is a municipality in Metro Vancouver who has punched above its weight with Jonathan Cote. We'll see if they can continue that with Patrick Johnstone. I also want to show you Surrey here, and we're starting to get some more numbers, and we've been talking a lot about this. And you mentioned, Chris, 71 out of 130 polls reporting. You can see that gap. There's now emerged a top three here. Again, we don't know where the votes are coming from.
Or they lose. So we'll see if that plays out. We'll see if that plays out for the rest of the cities tonight. Okay, here are the early results in Vancouver.
Ken Sim with a big lead early on, only 4% of the polls reporting, but 60% of the vote at the moment to Kennedy Stewart's 22%, and Colleen Hardwick with 11%. Mark Marison in fourth place at this moment with just 3%. But right now, very early on, Ken Sim looking to have a sizable lead at the moment. And as we've been discussing, it's not just the race for mayor, folks. The council, how the council is made up will very much determine how the next 4 years go. So here's what we have in Vancouver at the moment. Just
ABC.
went by very quickly, but ABC is at the top there.
Our old colleague Peter Meisner is in there.
Yeah, Peter Meisner, who used to be one of our online reporters here at Global. Adrian Carr from the Green Party, typically a big vote getter in Vancouver as well. There we go. Sarah Kirby-Young, re-elected. Lisa Dominato, all of those names are on the ABC slate.
All right, we've got some more results to pass along. We're going to take a look at some of these communities south of the Fraser and White Rock. Megan Knight elected as mayor in White Rock with 38% of the vote, 2,011 votes.
Yeah, another incumbent.
Yeah.
In Delta, George Harvey, easy victory for him with 76% of the vote.
And in Richmond, again, no surprise here, Malcolm Brody, longtime mayor there. Look for him to play a key role in some of the regional district and mayor's council's organizations as well.
He's got a lot of experience for sure. Checking some of the cities in the Okanagan and Kelowna, that is a big upset for the incumbent Colin Bazarin, with Tom Dias elected with 62% of the vote. We have some breaking news. We are going to do it. We are declaring Ken Sim elected the new mayor of Vancouver. 53% of the vote to Kennedy Stewart. The next closest at 30%. That's 16,000 votes, almost, what do we got? 7,000 more than Kennedy Stewart tonight. So Ken Sim is the new mayor of Vancouver.
And bringing, it looks like, pretty much all of his slate with him to City Council.
This is a Global News special presentation.
Good evening to our viewers on Global BC and Global Okanagan. Lots of change happening on Decision 2022 civic election races across this province. And the next 4 years will look quite different in some communities than the last 4 years did.
No doubt. A lot of incumbents got blown out. A lot of municipalities are going to have new mayors, including the two big races we've been watching tonight, of course, in Vancouver, where Ken Sim has obliterated Mayor Kennedy Stewart and his ABC party have taken over both City Council, the Park Board, and school boards as well. There's a look at the final numbers. Ken Sim with 51% of the vote to Kennedy Stewart's 32%. He broke the 30,000 vote barrier. And Kennedy Stewart reached 18,732. Colleen Hardwick came in third with 9% of the vote.
And in Surrey, there was a little bit of drama just in the past few minutes there with Doug McCallum initially conceding and then saying he wasn't going to concede because there were only a few hundred votes separating him with Brenda Locke. But when that last polling station came in, that gap between the two widened enough, and Brenda Locke will be the next mayor of Surrey.
It is the foundation of our democratic system. Every 4 years, we choose the people who will represent us federally, provincially, and tonight, municipally. 3,209 fellow British Columbians put their names forward for local office. All day, voters have been lining up at the polls, casting ballots, having their say. Good evening. I'm Stephen Quinn.
And I'm Anita Bath. This is BC Votes 2022, your CBC coverage of this year's municipal elections.
And we are live on CBC Radio, CBC Television. We are streaming online as well, bringing you key storylines from all corners of the province, from Vancouver to Vanderhoof, from Surrey to Fort St. John, and everywhere in between.
Yes, every campaign is different, of course, and 2022 has been no exception. This time around, the issues driving voters to the polls include the rising cost of housing, growing concerns about crime and safety, and municipal responses to climate change, all of which we will dig into over the course of the next few hours.
First, though, let's bring in one of our own. CBC Municipal Affairs reporter Justin McElroy is standing by to tell us about some of the key races that he is watching tonight. And Justin, I imagine it's almost like Christmas in October for you right now.
It's Christmas for anyone who likes democracy, Stephen. There are 160 different municipalities and 27 regional governments where people are electing people tonight. City halls are going to be changing across this province, and we're going to be telling you about a lot of them over the course of the evening. But there are some that we're going to be spending a little bit more time with after the polls close at 8 p.m. So let's do a little bit of preview of some of those. Vancouver, obviously, the biggest city in British Columbia, one where housing has been a huge issue for years and years, but increasingly crime in the downtown core, something that a lot of people have been talking about. Now, when you look at who could become mayor this evening, there are 5 main candidates that people are talking about. Mayor Kennedy Stewart, hoping to win. No mayor of Vancouver has sought re-election and lost on election night since 1980. He faces Ken Sim, who was runner-up 4 years ago by just 950 votes, along with Colleen Hardwick, a sitting councillor who has talked about slowing the pace of growth in Vancouver. Also in the running, though lower in the polls, Fred Harding, who ran 4 years ago with one party. Now he's with the NPA. And Mark Marison, a political strategist with Progress Vancouver. All 5 of them will be talking about it. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Vancouver. But of course, it's not the only place we're going. There's absolutely nobody running against Mike Hurley as the candidate. So you can see 100%, we can already call it. There we go, Burnaby, go home. No, I'm kidding, because there is a council race, actually, and there are 3 different parties, along with a number of incumbents running there. But because there's been no mayoral race, you know, I heard turnout is going to be around 15% or so, 1-5, really low there. It's hard to get people to really care when there's no mayor's race. But Mike Hurley has done a good job of getting council on his side over the last 4 years. Other places in Metro Vancouver where there's no mayor's race, Port Coquitlam, Brad West, he's going to be mayor for another 4 years. Nicole McDonald in Pitt Meadows, the only candidate running there, replacing Bill Dingwall, and about 40 other municipalities throughout British Columbia where there's only one person running for mayor. Burnaby, the biggest of them, so congrats to Mike Hurley. It will be interesting to see what council looks like at the end of it, but this is one where voters who care at least about the mayor's race can turn in early for Burnaby.
All right, thank you very much, Justin. And you've answered a question for me because I was curious about what happens to the rest of the votes when you've already got a mayor acclaimed, as Mike Hurley was.
Now we're going to head over back to Justin McElroy because he does have more results. They're just coming in fast. It's really, that trickle is really speeding up, Justin.
I think the trickle is gone, Anita.
Okay, we're past that now.
It's a rush now, and let's go through just some of them quickly here. We've talked all night about Surrey, and we can see we've now got more than half the votes in, and take a look at that. Brenda Locke with the lead, about 2,500 votes up on Doug McCallum. Now, that can be reversed. That's not a large enough lead where we can say Brenda Locke is going to be mayor of Surrey. It's not large enough where we can even start talking about that decision being made. But Locke has to feel comfortable with this. The margin by percentage is what we were seeing in some of the polls in the final week.
And there you have it. Brenda Locke, formerly Surrey City Councillor, now the mayor of elect Surrey. CBC has projected that Brenda Locke will defeat Doug McCallum to become the next mayor of Surrey. And that was news that well, we suspected as much had happened. We just had not run all the official numbers yet.
But clearly Brenda Locke's party
Clearly,
had.
Glenda, yes.
You know, though, she said that Surrey sent a big message to Doug, but I really have to question whether they did, because Doug...
In places like Shaughnessy, they could be places like Kerrisdale, but look at that. More than a 2,500 vote lead, more than double Kennedy Stewart right now. That's a huge amount. Ken Sim has to be extremely pleased with that start. We heard that his internal polling showed that they were on to a commanding victory tonight. If this holds, that will be true. Kennedy Stewart certainly in a lot of trouble with these first results. But again, we don't know quite where these are, so things could change a little bit. But if you're Ken Sim, you have to love where you are with these first batch of results. And of course, it's not just mayor that matters, it's council. And if you take a look at where we are with these first 10 polling results in terms of the council, all 7 ABC candidates are at the top of the polls right now. 2 Greens, Adrian Carr and Pete Fry, and then Christine Boyle of OneCity in 10th place. If that holds, and again, it's just 10 results, so 10 polling stations so far, but if that holds, that's a dominant result for Ken Sim and ABC, a repudiation of Kennedy Stewart, and it would be a significantly different City Hall if this holds.
And it's Dan Burritt at Kennedy Stewart headquarters.
And once again, the CBC is projecting an election for Ken Sim in Vancouver. Ken Sim projected elected as mayor of Vancouver by the CBC Decision Desk.
And if you go over again, early days, but we did have, 55 of 106 polls reporting when that declaration was made. And when it comes to the people who were running with Ken Sim, so far 7 of the ABC candidates who ran for council positions find themselves in the top 7 slots. With 2 Green Party candidates and one OneCity candidate rounding out the bottom. So it looks as though, at this stage, again, subject to change, on the council end, however, Ken Sim projected the new mayor of Vancouver.
Yeah, a much different look and experience for this council this time around.
In a season of discontent,
facing everybody right now is that cost of living. It's terrible. I'm kind of discouraged, to be honest.
the election that hits closest to home, heated issues.
Housing. It's too expensive. Crime.
Tight races with high-stake rematches.
Please speak on
we're into debate, buddy.
And reputations on the line.
Break-in, window smash and grabs. This is off the charts.
Who's in and who's out? Tonight, BC voters get their say.
Promise that you're going to listen and be there for your community.
Who will lead the way forward where you live? We're about to find out.
polls close. Good evening and welcome to CTV's coverage of election 2022. We'll be here with you all night, commercial-free, with the fastest results from the key races in Metro Vancouver and around the province. And the big races, of course, we are watching tonight are in Vancouver and Surrey. Will Kennedy Stewart be re-elected in BC's largest city? He's facing a rematch against Ken Sim. Polls leading up to Election Day had this race in a virtual tie. And in BC's second largest city, will voters in Surrey give Doug McCallum another 4 years in office? He's facing off with a number of high-profile political veterans. McCallum is also charged with public mischief and will go on trial later this month. Right now, British Columbians are voting for mayors and councillors in 160 municipalities. Also being elected are school trustees and park board commissioners. Voter turnout is something we will also be watching tonight. We have extensive team coverage. Our reporters are fanned out across the region, following all the exciting races in Metro Vancouver, the Fraser Valley, and Vancouver Island. We'll check in with our election team in just a moment. Joining me in studio all evening is CTV's Legislative Bureau Chief, Binder Sudjan. Together, we're going to be bringing you the results. And Binder, what are you watching for tonight?
Well, Mijang, there's a lot going on tonight. But as you heard there in the opener, season of discontent. That seems to be a mood across municipal elections in this province. So I'll be looking to see how that translates into voter turnout. As you know, municipal elections and what the mayor and council do have the most direct impact on our day-to-day lives. And yet, this is the election where we see the lowest voter turnout. We are going to see in Abbotsford, New Westminster, Langley Township, Port Moody, and Victoria, new mayors elected. So there is a lot of excitement in store tonight.
Yeah, a lot at stake. Every vote counts, and there's still just under an hour left until polls close. And as you'll notice, we're already scrolling through results at the bottom of your screen. That's because 39 mayoral candidates won by acclamation, standing unopposed.
A dead heat.
Well, we see a significant level of support that moved to Ken Sim at the start of the campaign. Back in April, he's at 26%. He finishes at 33%. That's exactly tied with Kennedy Stewart. Numbers are lower for Colleen Harwick, Mark Marison, and Fred Harding. So definitely a situation where the ground game is going to tell us who will be the next mayor.
And it's been tightening up.
Yes, it's definitely closer than it was at the start, which is really significant because they both have areas where they do very well. West Side and downtown for Kennedy Stewart. Sorry, West Side for Ken Sim, East Side and downtown for Kennedy Stewart.
Flow into the election headquarters. We're seeing some Surrey results already now. The first results, Brenda Locke is leading with 3% of the polls counted so far.
Yeah, it's a lead of about 26, Gordy Hogue and Doug McCallum, followed by Ginny Sims, Suk Dhaliwal, and Amrit Biring. Still early.
Yeah, but the polls did have Brenda Locke as one of the top contenders for sure. So that's the first...
Telling, I'd say. I'm sure there's cheers in the back room.
Linda Annis, she always does well on council, doesn't she, Diane?
I think Gord's been wanting to get into politics. I mean, he's got a very young family, and so, you know, he's part of the community. He's very well known. He's a notary public in South Surrey, so.
And in Burnaby, Alison Gu is leading in terms of council. We know that the mayor was acclaimed there, so basically the race is for council.
Yeah, Burnaby's really interesting because they've got this new political party called Burnaby One, I think One Burnaby, and it's this right of center party, or center to right of center, going up against what has always been quite a left-wing council, and we'll see how that pans out tonight.
Well, Richard Lee, I see his name there, former Liberal MLA.
Party actually as well.
And it was a very different situation in Vancouver. Kennedy Stewart won the mayor's chair as an independent, and out of 11 parties, there was a smattering on council, a minority council, marathon council meetings, gridlock in getting things done. Here's how that looked before today.
Well, this is the situation right now, and a lot of these people were elected under different banners. The MPA with Melissa DiGenova, she's still there, but Rebecca Bly, Lisa Dominato, Sarah Kirby-Young, they were MPAs, now they're ABCs. very different situation. Colleen Hardwick also was NPA, now with Team. So it's a different mentality because your center-left voter now has a slate that they can support. So it will be interesting to watch how those results come in at 9:05.
That's right. As you mentioned, that's 9:05 for Vancouver. We're seeing early Surrey results. Vancouver, there was a power outage at one polling station. They've allowed people an extra hour to vote, so they're not releasing any of the early numbers they've counted up anywhere in Vancouver until 9:05, and people are done voting at that station. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Rob Buffett, reporting live. And we have breaking news to report from Surrey. CTV's decision desk is declaring Brenda Locke elected as the new Surrey mayor.
And we're just going to have a look at some of the numbers now. But as we mentioned, CTV has a sophisticated, the most sophisticated system across the country. 59% of polls are in. The lead is 2,600. Doug McCallum, interestingly enough, has moved into second place. But again, CTV's decision desk is declaring Brenda Locke as the new mayor of Surrey. Diane, what do you think of that?
And finally, the results from Vancouver are starting to trickle in, and we have Ken Sim in the lead right now with 1,900 votes. Kennedy Stewart trailing by quite a distance.
Yeah, so that's with 6% of the polls reporting, and the lead there for Ken Sim is 1,222. Colleen Hardwick is in third, followed by Mark Marison, Fred Harding, and Leona Brown. So what do you think about that, George?
Well, I saw some of the council lists. It looks like if it keeps going this way, it's an ABC sweep.
Look, we've got the council, and we do see the ABC candidates are leading the pack there. Sarah Kirby-Young, former NPA, Lisa Dominato, also former NPA, Mike Klassen, all of these are ABC candidates.
Yep.
And they're all in the lead.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's only a few polls, and they could be all on the west side of Vancouver, up in Dunbar or somewhere, so we're not quite sure where they're coming from, but if this is indicative of the evening, you're going to see a big change in Vancouver.
Well, and that is what we saw last time around. Ken Sim to come in. Let's go throw it back to Andrew now with more on what's happening in Metro Vancouver.
Mario, you're a pretty smart guy. What can you extrapolate from 6% of the polls reporting here? Does this mean Ken Sim will win?
It's a little bit early, but it's a significant lead. And I think what's important also is to look at the minor candidates. Colleen Hardwick, a very distant third place. Not a lot of support right now for Progress Vancouver or for the NPA. So these are the two numbers to watch for the next few hours.
Okay, these are very preliminary. Other areas of Metro Vancouver, we have people either elected or leading. Let's take a fly through. In Richmond, Mario.
Malcolm Brody, re-elected, the incumbent, right now with 8. We're still early, but 4,000 polls in. I think it's definitely something that he'll do.
Okay, let's check out Delta next.
Delta, George Harvey re-elected. We see the little dot there. Significant level of support, more than 7,000 votes.
And
over
US,
his competitor,
Patrick Johnstone.
Patrick Johnstone, he was a councillor, wanted to run for mayor, and he will be.
It's looking good for Ken Sim in the mayoral race. What about on council? Well, we can see ABC leading right now on 8 seats.
Well, this is important because what we see right now might be areas where Ken Sim is doing very well, and this is working as far as voting the entire slate. So having his 8 candidates leading right now, that'll give them the super majority that George was talking about. 2 Greens, 1 OneCity. Not a lot of action from the other parties right now.
Okay.
Okay, we've got some breaking news now, though, folks. And breaking news, CTV's decision desk is now declaring Ken Sim elected for Vancouver mayor. The votes have been coming in all night in favor of the ABC campaign. Twice was a charm for Ken Sim. And we are electing Ken Sim, declaring Ken Sim elected as Vancouver mayor. Let's take a look at the numbers right now.
Yeah, so he's leading by almost 6,000 votes with 27% of the polls in, defeating Kennedy Stewart, who is the incumbent mayor, and really capitalizing on perhaps some of the discontent over the issues and the way things are playing out in Vancouver right now. Your reaction, George?
Well, it's a big deal, and I think the campaign that ran, and you asked earlier about the campaign in the last election when Ken Sim was the NPA, it was a bit discombobulated. It wasn't a solid campaign. This time he's run a really, really efficient campaign.
Thanking all the Asian Canadians who went before him, because he is now the first Asian Canadian mayor of Vancouver. Yeah. And he won handily by over Kennedy Stewart is a lot further apart than people thought.
Yeah, this is not a photo finish. This is not like this. This is surprising numbers we're seeing here in Vancouver with this massive majority that he has, a super majority on council, park board, school board. He's got it all.
And of course, the other big story tonight is Brenda Locke's victory. Now, her lead is a little closer than we thought originally. Last count, she's got about 1,000 more votes. All the polls have been counted, 1,000 more votes over Doug McCallum.
Yeah, defeating the incumbent there by about 1,000 votes and signaling that the RCMP is to stay in Surrey because that was one of her major campaign promises.
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome to Island Votes, our special coverage of the 2022 municipal election results. I'm Stacey Ross here with Joe Perkins tonight.
The campaign is now over and the polls have been closed for just over an hour. Large crowds turned out today, cast their votes at polling stations across the capital region, up and down the island, some waiting up to an hour just to get inside. It seems voters were engaged in this municipal election.
And hearing word that there are still lineups at some polling stations this hour, of course, an hour after polls closed or those doors closed. But those people in line will still get a chance to vote, so their votes will be counted as well. We will be watching results, of course, from across the island. Our team of CHEK reporters standing by to help you understand what it all means and to get a reaction to the final results. Sky Ryan is in Nanaimo tonight, keeping an eye on results from communities in that area.
And there's Rob Shaw watching the two frontrunners in the Victoria race, the mayoralty race. He's live at Marianne Alto's headquarters. We do have a live crew at Stephen Andrews' headquarters as well. And as always, our online team is pushing results on our website, checknews.ca. Throughout this broadcast, we're going to be bringing you results from up and down the island. If you don't see the race you're looking for, you can bet that you will find it online, checknews.ca/election. We'll have results as they come in, and those results have already started pouring in.
Absolutely. And we will be here with you at least until 10 o'clock, perhaps a little bit afterwards. But keep in mind that the municipal elections are not quite as well-oiled a machine as other elections, provincially and federally as well. We may not get all the results in for you by 10 o'clock. Some municipalities still hand count their ballots. So we'll bring you the very latest information. You can go to our website to keep updated, and we'll be with you as long as we can. We have also gathered here with us a panel of local experts to weigh in on a few races this evening. We have two former politicians to give us some insight on some of the candidates. Outgoing Victoria Mayor Lisa Helps is here in studio with us. She served as mayor since 2014, sat on council since 2011, as well as the CRD board. She is joined by Rebecca Mercer-Rode, outgoing Saanich councillor and CRD vice chair. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
We also have two political watchers here at the desk. We wanted to have all 6 people at the desk, but it just wasn't big enough. I think this is the most people we've ever had in studio ever. So thank you, Sky. All right, this is one of the first upsets of the night. Doug Kobayashi taking down incumbent Rob Martin with 67% of the vote. All the votes are in Colwood, and Doug Kobayashi, he was a councillor since 2018, topped the polls. He ran provincially in the last provincial election for the Liberals. But Rob Martin, I mean, many people know his name around the capital region. He was elected to council in 2011 in Colwood. He ran again in 2014 and then became mayor in 2018. First elected, he was mayor from 1999 to 2008, I believe, or 2018, long time. Politician there. He has defeated Brian Weiss. Tunis Westbrook will be the next mayor of Qualicum Beach. We also have results from Sydney. Cliff McNeil-Smith was acclaimed there. He will be the mayor again. And if you look at the 9 councillors who are running in Sydney for a seat on council, Steve Price, he did not make it in. Neither did Cam McLennan. And you see Eric Diller there. There is your council, 4 incumbents coming back for another term in Sydney. And again, Cliff McNeil-Smith, he is acclaimed. He'll be mayor for at least another term.
And here you can see Marianne Alto has been declared as the winner with 51% of the vote to Stephen Andrews' 39%.
Let's talk about this for a second. I mean, we talked before coming on, and it seemed to me that Stephen Andrew had a strong campaign. He had a lot of signs, he had a lot of radio ads, he was out there, a strong social media presence. It seemed on the surface like this was going to be an extremely close race. If not, Stephen might actually win tonight. That's not the case. Your reaction?
Broadcasting from the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, this is City News. Brenda Locke will be the new mayor of Surrey, vowing to keep the RCMP in the city. The controversial incumbent, Doug McCallum, defeated. Tonight on City News, municipal election results in Surrey, Vancouver, and beyond.
Leadership that speaks to the cultural diversity of Vancouver would be good.
Voters in Vancouver and Surrey share their hopes for their hometown and what guided their votes at the polls today.
Good evening and welcome to City News. On this municipal election night across British Columbia, big upsets in both Surrey and Vancouver. In Vancouver, Ken Sim has unseated Kennedy Stewart and will become the city's mayor. We'll have more on that in a few minutes, but first, let's start in Surrey, where Brenda Locke has knocked off incumbent mayor Doug McCallum. City News 1130's Robin Crawford has more.
I'm here at Brenda Locke's headquarters, where the room is electric. Brenda Locke, the former MLA and Surrey City Councillor, just became the mayor of Surrey. I spoke to Brenda about her win. Brenda Locke, you just became the mayor of Surrey.
I am so humbled. I am so privileged and honored that the residents of this city chose me, and I'm grateful to that.
Kagul is at Ken Sim headquarters tonight, where supporters are reveling in this victory for mayor of Vancouver. Monica, what's it like out there right now?
It's very loud. I'm having trouble hearing you, to be honest.